Oh, God.
There we go. Welcome to the Finance Advisory Committee meeting for June 21st, 2017. In attendance, Robin Olson, Wayne Snow, Sheila Ruth, Ed Doby, Mike Farrell is here. The agenda tonight is somewhat limited, so what I would like to do is start with the funds transfers, Mike.
Sure. You have the originals, passed out copies to the members. Yeah, there's two sets of line item transfers. The first one has already been reviewed and signed off by the select board. We had a request from the Parks and Rec Commission. They had excess salary in their budget, and they want to move it to the expenses. So, because they have expenses at the beginning of at the beginning of the summer, but their budget doesn't start until July 1. So they and then not going to, as I said, that was excess salaries they didn't use during last summer. Similarly, the fire department had excess salaries, primarily due to the fact that we just started with the union wages, and we didn't know, being that they're call firefighters, it's hard, we do our best estimate to decide how many people are gonna show up to a call, and we know how many meetings they have and training, but it's pegging down the number of calls. So the fire chief is requesting $20,000 be transferred from salaries to fire expenses. So because we didn't have any CIP money this year, he wants to use it. Fred's not here today.
I'm here on BSBF.
Oh, okay. Please, you can explain it better than I can.
Yeah, we actually, fire department
You want to
experienced.
introduce yourself
Oh,
to
sorry,
the committee?
Brian Coolidge, fire department. We actually had a number of breakdowns this year on the apparatuses. We've been at a lot of high maintenance costs, so that, as well as some expenses that were union related that we had to pare out that weren't accounted for in our original budget.
Okay. Any questions?
And Brian, I thought he was also going to purchase a number of air tanks due to their expiration coming up.
Yeah, so the other thing was a number of our self-contained breathing apparatus, our spare tanks. They do have a limited lifespan, and he thought with some extra money that he'd take advantage of that this year, so we don't have to have a big outlay over the next couple of years to take care of that.
$20,000 for all of that seems a little on the light side.
Well, that should cover all of our expenses through the end of the year,
Okay,
so.
And the additional tanks.
okay.
Okay.
There was, I think, one or two other pieces of equipment that if we have the money for, he'd like to replace that's aging. I think there's a roof saw that he'd like to replace as well, that's aging.
Okay.
So if we have that extra money, then we do that, which would be included in that $20,000.
Well, I think in the name of public safety, we all agree that we want to support what you're looking to do, because we might be on the receiving end of those services, heaven forbid.
And the last item, number 3, every year we do our best to estimate the cost of health insurance. We get a budget and a rate at the beginning of May. We don't have enrollment complete until July 1. We never really can tell, how many family plans, how many versus two-person plans we're going to have, and 62,000 is worth 3 family plans. So we have in the past actually, and I must say grossly overestimated the cost of medical insurance. But for the last 3 years, I've taken to underestimating it. We would have $100,000 to $200,000 unspent. So I've been trying to, I find it's better to slightly underestimate than grossly overestimate. So we're looking to cover the medical insurance with the interest, the middle high school interest, Pembroke interest, and short-term interest. We didn't go out to final bond for either of the middle high school or the Pembroke, so we don't have to pay interest this year. We didn't have it.
So this is just deferring those payments until next fiscal year?
Yeah, they're budgeted this for FY15.
Right.
But we didn't have these interest expenses, and we thought we'd be taking out some other bands, primarily for the Elm Street project. We're going to be, we just actually took a ban out last week, but we won't have an interest payment on it until next year at this time.
All right, so we already accrued that money already.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not a,
It's not accrued.
excuse me?
I don't,
Gary Fowler?
I think the understanding of the letter, if you're saying
Okay.
that we've accrued it, it's not interest that accrued, am I correct, Mike?
No. We've already accrued the money towards paying the
Towards-
interest.
Okay.
No, I understand perfectly, yeah.
Okay.
Budgeted,
Right,
yes,
so it's in an account.
yes.
Okay.
So so I'm asking the committee to approve those line item transfers.
Ready for?
You want, should we do them all at once, or do you wanna do them page by page?
I think you should probably do them separately.
Okay,
Okay,
do I hear a motion?
I'll start. Make a motion from account 016305110 Park and Recreation salaries for the amount of $10,000 to be transferred to account 0163057 Park and Rec expenses of $10,000. Somebody say second.
I second that motion.
Questions?
Oh, you could do all
We could do
three of
all
them on one,
all right.
on
Oh,
each
okay.
page. You've got another page of them, yeah.
Okay, all right. The second one is from account 1220510 Fire Department salaries in the amount of $20,000 to be transferred to account 101220570 Fire expenses in amount of $20,000. From account 0171092 Middle High School interest $17,600. From account 0171090 Pembroke interest $25,066. From account 0171099 short-term interest in the amount of $20,000 to account 0191457 medical insurance and totaling $62,666.
I second that motion.
Good one, there we go. Not to be repeated.
Discussion? I'll hear a vote then.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, passes unanimously.
Thank you. And the second page of line item transfers, Marion and I have been looking over the budget for the last month, and including June, and we're not exactly sure how much we're going to need in the Selectmen Town Hall expenses. We have some end of the year where, we wait for bills actually to come in up till July 15th until we actually stop paying bills for FY17. Thank you, Don. So we know the Essex Shore, North Shore Tech, we had, based on what they told us a year ago last spring, they told us to budget $95,000. And when we got the bill in October, it was half that amount. They were anticipating more students than actually showed up. So we're asking to transfer the unspent money in the North Shore Tech line to the Selectmen Town Hall expense line. As I said, we don't anticipate using the 42,172, but we don't want to have to come back to the committee and ask for, $10,000. If we don't spend it, either way, it's going to revert back to free cash.
Okay.
Likewise, well, not likewise, on number 2, the Council on Aging salary line, we had budgeted for a full year of the staff being in the new facility. They didn't move in until November. So at that point, they picked up more hours. That's why we had budgeted the 22,400. All the staff, with the exception of the director, was going to be working more hours. So in order to finish furnishing and actually one of the items that wasn't included in the plan was a security camera arrangement. And Colleen has met with the police and fire chief, and they both recommended that we install, because there's only 3 staff members there, it's a pretty large area, and some of the patrons could be far away in another room and not with a staff person, so there'd be no good way to know if they need help or something like that.
I don't disagree with what you're saying. However, it appears to me that they should have been in their budget request to begin with. And this is just, to me, a way to backdoor and get what they need to get without going through the budget process.
Well, nobody, this is new to all of us, and we've never run a senior center before, and it was just recently, since they were in it, that the chiefs came in and did a review of the center and recommended.
May I, Chief Cudmore is here, may I ask your opinion?
What we did was, when the center opened, Colleen had requested that we assist her with safety and security planning, so Chief Mitchell and I went over, and I did the standard safety assessment like I have with all of our public buildings. And there is an existing camera system because of the fact it was an elementary school. So there are ancillary cameras, and especially there's a server-based a camera separator, so that we're able to add to the system. And the good news was that Mike Anderson, being the maintenance director of the schools, is more than willing to help her get that up and running. At the initial stages of the plan, I wasn't involved with that. We certainly would have recommended it at the time.
Okay.
I think it would have been, especially in the modern days that we live in, that it would just be a feasible thing, especially where the hardware is there. I'm sorry, the software is there, we just need some more hardware. And Mike's people are going to install it, which is good. And there's adequate space on this service to do that. We just have to separate it.
Again, I don't have any problem with doing this. My problem is that, if this becomes not specifically for the Council on Aging, but I would not like this to be general practice on an ongoing basis. I'm sure you can agree with that.
Sure. I mean, this would be something that actually would be a CIP item. And
If we had CIP,
If we
yeah.
had CIP.
We actually had a CIP, if I may, sir, we had a CIP request. I sit on the CIP for the library. I did the same assessment last year when we did active shooter training in all our public buildings. Our library was built, I believe, with like a $4 million budget,
That's
and
right.
and there was no security systems or camera plans in that arena as well. So we've recommended, they did come to CIP, but we're a little short this year. So that is also on our radar for next year for that building.
Well, I think it's a great thing to do. I support it, I'm just concerned.
If I may, I have a question, Chief.
Sure.
Is that something where the police department, you already have, surveillance over other areas of town? Is that something that you're also going to be actively surveilling as well, or is it just going to be the people who are in
I would
the
like
senior
to.
center?
I think that the open eye system that we use, we're hoping, I'm maxed out in my capacity to add any more cameras. I have a plan in the next 2 years actually, to add this building, the other 3 public buildings, water, light, library, and the senior center will be encompassed with the schools. It's a 2-year plan because of that expense. I have 54-inch monitors. The equipment today, we need 80-inch monitors so that we can encapsulate all the camera screens. So I'm gonna add 2 more to the communication center, but it's gonna be a work in progress. It will not be immediate.
So this is an initial sort of
kind
step
of an ongoing,
forward
yeah.
in that. Okay, so that what they're purchasing it will have the capabilities of then
Right.
adding onto your system eventually as
And I think the good news is probably, it might answer some of the question that you have, is it will be recorded and monitored on the school side. So if we need data and their storage is of such of the data we want to try to retrieve, it will be there. We will not be actively monitoring like we do the schools at this time.
Okay,
I
and
just
so
don't have capacity.
who is actively monitoring it? The staff that's there?
Yes.
Okay.
It would be more of a closed circuit. For instance, Pauline staff in the front, Bill cameras will be exterior. It will be the entrance, so that in the event they see something occurring in the rear of the building, at least the employees inside know something's going on.
Okay,
Closed circuit,
right, okay.
but recorded.
Okay, and then, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this was discussed during the budgets, if I remember correctly, where we were talking about, adding a full-time staff because of safety concerns. So I think this is
That's right.
kind of an additional sort of thing that maybe, I'm assuming that the Council on Aging is saying, well, we have this extra funds, we know that safety is an issue, so we're gonna address it maybe this way. If I remember correctly, it was kind of brought up at that point in time, or no?
It was, yes.
Okay. Yeah, so I think it was sort of, kind of glossed over.
I don't have any problem with it. I had a concern about the timing
Right.
of it.
Yeah,
That's it.
Mhm.
And the system will include a panic button component, so that we can mobilely determine where we want panic buttons, just like we do the schools.
Okay, sorry to have delayed us.
It's okay. Then number 3 is, we're short 510 in the medical. In addition to this one, we thought we had covered it all with the 62,666. But with the final bill came in $510 more than we anticipated. So we're asking that the additional money that was left in dental insurance be moved to medical insurance.
I guess we're lucky we had surpluses or changes to be able to cover these.
We usually do.
Right, but you don't know when you're gonna get it until you get all the paperwork in.
That's right.
Okay.
I have a question on the first one. Is there a particular expense, the Selectmen Town Hall expenses, are there particular expenses that transfer is being made for, or is it just to kind of clean out one account and go into another?
We haven't been able to, we know we've got about $10,000 in electricity that we're short on. A lot of that had to do with heating this building with electricity during the winter. Just end of the year bills. Once again, I don't expect to spend all $42,000. It's probably, right now I can identify at least $15,000. But instead of coming back to you we won't spend it if we don't need it, and it'll go back to free cash if we don't.
Mike, does Essex North Shore Tech only bill us in October?
Yes.
So it's only one bill, we wouldn't be expecting another bill that might come up in
No,
it's
it's
one time a year bill?
One time a bill, one,
And how did, off the top of your head, did we leave what we budgeted for Essex North Shore Tech on par with the previous year?
we
or-
did.
Okay, so it's not like we decrease the budget and then
No.
we might have a surprise. Okay.
Good questions. Do I hear a motion?
I'm ready. Okay,
Do you want me to read
Oh,
this
by the
now?
way,
you ready? I'll second, you go.
actually,
I'll
Peterson
go
is
this
here.
time. Okay, we'll
Don't
trade
miss
off.
a number.
I won't miss a number. All right, I make a motion to request the following line item transfers. From account 013-12570, Essex North Shore Tech, $42,172, to account 011-22570, Selectmen Town Hall expenses, $42,172. Additionally, from account 015-41510, Council on Aging salaries, to move $22,480 to account 015-41570, Council on Aging expense, $22,480. Lastly, from account 019-17570, dental insurance, to move $510 to account 019-14540, medical insurance. Do I have a second?
Seconded.
Thank you.
Discussion? Any other questions? Anything from the floor? All right, take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved.
Okay, the rest of these are requests for transfers from the reserve fund. The first one in your packet is health department salaries. Um, We had two instances where one of our employees was out about 10 months this year. And we had to utilize part-time help to fill in the gap. And the rest of that would go to cover when the heating system broke in December. It broke right over there. The water pipes broke and flooded their supplies closet. And these aren't just your regular papers and pencils and things like that. It was emergency equipment that they use. And we applied for insurance coverage, but we have a $5,000 deductible. So this will allow them to replace some of the emergency equipment, but not all of it.
Well, considering what we were looking at before you went back to the insurance companies, is we're getting off cheap.
Certainly are.
Remember, we didn't think we were covered?
I agree.
Yeah, and I can report actually, we've been working, we actually closed last 2 Thursdays. We're not closing tomorrow, to enable them to get the work done as quick as they can. Right now, they're scheduled to finalize looping everything, closing up the plumbing on Friday, come in and test it on Saturday, and if it all goes well, then we'll be able to start up the system on Monday.
Well, you did a nice job on that one, Mike.
Yeah, I have to say.
Well, thank you. I would have preferred it had happened before we hit 90-degree weather. Janet and I, well, most of the second floor last month, a week ago, Monday, Tuesday, was 95.
Yeah, it was, we had a CPC meeting downstairs last night. It was brutal. Okay, and how do you want to handle these, one at a time, or?
Yes, one at a time.
Okay. Do I hear a motion?
Okay, I'll do that. This is a request, reserve fund transfers. Okay. Police expense,
Well,
pending.
No,
are we gonna go
Just do
through all
this
of
one
them?
right here.
we're going through, we're gonna approve one at a time. So we just hear a motion on the one
Okay,
for the,
get on the
Health
right
Department.
The Health Department, all right. This is the Health Department. Reserve fund transfer. Where is it? Account 01511510, Health Department salaries. The amount requested is $4,600.
do I hear a second?
I second that motion.
Discussion? Ready to take a vote? Anything from the floor? No? Okay, we'll take a vote. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Measure passes, request passes.
Thank you. And I'd like to turn over the explanations to the police chief at this time.
Chief Cudmore, welcome tonight.
So we usually try to hit our target numbers, and we've done so in the past in recent years, but for the third consecutive year, I had a mid-year retirement. The contractual agreements with the employees don't require they tell us when they're going to retire, although I try to pull it out of them as early as possible so that we can plan. Long-term employee, 33 years of service, retired mid-year. And I have another one possibly in 18 too, because I've been doing some sniffing around, and I think there's gonna be another one that's not budgeted, so this will repeat itself again, so I'm not a broken record, but it can happen. So with that, there's contractual buyout for the employee, as well as academy training for the new person coming in. I was able to cover a portion of the academy training within budget, the equipment, but not the actual academy fee. So there's 17.3 for the payout for the employee, a $3,000 academy fee that I have to pay to the state to enroll the new officer who is graduating in July, so that vacancy will be filled. The other $4,000 is the hot water tank let go in the public safety building. It's a commercial system, it's a 100-gallon tank. I was able to cover some of it out of our expense account, but I was about $4,000 short to pay that bill. So there's $7,000 in police expenses for those two items, and $17,300 in my salary line item for the retirement.
Do I hear a motion?
I have a question.
Well, we'll do that in discussion.
I would like it to make a motion to transfer from the reserve fund to line item 10510 police salary, $17,300. And additionally, I'd like to request for transfer from the reserve fund $7,000 to 01210570 police expenses.
Discussion.
Okay, discussion. I just had a question.
Sure.
How many more, police officers do we anticipate, do we have at that retirement level?
If I were to guesstimate, because of years past, employees would traditionally retire at 32 years of service, and some are leaving a little earlier. They just see the benefit to leave. I would guesstimate within the next 3 to 5 years, you will probably have 3 more.
Okay.
And then the rest of your reserve force, the 12 full-time officers, are very young. So it's us old-timers that are still around.
Is it something that we can identify and maybe set aside some money in the future to do, or is there just not really anything in our budget that really
I think
kinda
we have in the
allows that
past. I
flexibility?
know that there was an account that we had funded a couple of times. And I think it just hadn't made the ability to fund that particular line item.
Thanks.
Because I remember one of my first retirements about 3 years ago, there was some funding in that line item, but it was depleted. I covered it within budget. Mike and I met and we said, we'll do it in May and June to see, because one year I did not need a transfer. I was able to cover that actual contractual payout. We had a decent last quarter and I was able to save on some overtime, but this has been a tough year. So.
Yeah, it seems tight.
You tend to probably have a little bit of incremental savings from having a 33-year veteran versus bringing on someone new from the academy and salaries, right? But it's not much to cover.
It's
this.
not, and what's
It's incremental, I would assume.
Well, what happened was, I had a brief period where that actually occurred because of the educational incentive.
Right.
For instance, if an officer has in the contract an associate's, bachelor's, or a master's degree, the retiring officer had a bachelor's degree, the incoming officer had a master's degree, so actually there was no offset.
Right.
There's a brief offset for about 3 years because of a step increase. There's a very small step increase. It's
Right.
nothing that would affect any budget line item. And then, depending on the shift that they bid, there are some contractual issues there. As of late, I have not seen many dollars saved with one leaving and one coming because of that, because younger officers today are more educated than the older
Absolutely.
officers.
And I anticipate it's not something you could budget for because people's plans change,
They
things
do.
happen, and I don't know that with our budget being so tight and so close that that's something we'd set aside
Well,
money
Mike,
for readily.
Mike and I, during negotiations, I do request it each year. I feel that there needs to be some type of planning provision for us. I was hoping, when I did a calendar outlook of potential retirements, if we could get a 6-month notice, we could hit a town meeting, we can hit, maybe the budget cycle prior to the December submission of the next fiscal year. So somewhere along the line, you'd be able to preemptively plan for it, but lately, they're just, they hit March, it seems to be March, April, and it's like, you're in, you're into your fiscal year. You didn't know back in November, December during budget deliberations, so I personally think there should be a 6-month requirement, but it's not up to me.
We appreciate your efforts.
Okay, ready for a vote? Let's vote for them separately. Okay, let's take a vote first on the $17,300, 012-105-10 police salary to mid-year contractual retirement buyouts. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. The second one is 012-105-70 police expenses. These are for $7,000 for academy expense mid-year and also to pay for the water heater repairs. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate you
Do you
coming.
need anything else from me tonight?
Nope, I don't think so.
Needs to go round up some pigs.
Yeah.
Hey, that was the best call of the year for me. I love that.
It made national news. I was so happy for that.
Yeah, look at that
Can't
pig.
believe that.
And I have to admit, I was the one who leaked the video, so.
Oh, nice.
Some of the officers aren't happy with it.
That thing is as big as a small car.
I love it.
Does it
Perfect.
matter
I
that it
loved
says
it.
5
Loved
required
it.
for
All
quorum?
right, have a good night.
I
Thank
mean,
you
there's
very much
5
for
of
coming.
us, but
Okay.
does it matter if there's, okay.
Lastly, have 2 requests for reserve funds transfer for the library. Just to let you know, this is a first. The library usually covers any deficits they have through their trust funds or through the revenue they receive from the state. The state hasn't been, as the expenses just haven't,
Thanks.
the revenue hasn't been keeping up with library expenses from the state, just like the revenue from the state hasn't kept up with town expenses either. So the librarian asked if the finance committee would consider these requests due to the lack of revenue from the state, and as you can see, they also had increased energy bills this winter.
What's MVLC credit cut?
Library.
Okay, thank you.
You've earned your pay now.
For that, you get to make the motion.
Yes, okay, we ready for motion? We can do them both at the same time like we did the police and then just vote on them separately.
All right. I make a motion to transfer from the reserve fund to line item 016100510 library salaries in the amount of $672. And a second request from the reserve fund to line item 016100570 in the amount of $1,100 library expenditures.
Do I hear a second?
I second that motion.
Thank you. Discussion? Are we ready for a vote? All right, we'll vote first on the request for a transfer from the reserve fund, 016100510 library salaries for the staff to attend training for the new library catalog system in the amount of $672. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Request for a transfer from the reserve fund, 016100570 library expenditures. This is due to the Merrimack Valley, you want to say it? Merrimack Valley Library Consortium. A credit cutback and an increase in energy bills. The total amount requested for the fund transfer is $1,100. All in favor?
Aye. There's a few votes.
Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Great time.
Thank you. Just a note, this year, even after all those transfers, we still had a balance remaining of $82,689 from the original $113,361. I think last year we hit the reserve fund pretty hard. I think we were less than $10,000 by the end of the year.
It was like 9,500, I think.
Yeah. So, I think we did a good job
Yeah.
not rating the reserve fund, only for what we absolutely had to.
Well, that's why I was saying we're very, very lucky on the ability to transfer from salaries to expense and so on and so forth. We're not gonna be so lucky most of the time. Okay. That's that.
Okay.
I guess that's all I have for the committee.
The one thing the committee does want to discuss this evening is the continuing pull and push of the Healthy Farms gift account. I'll just bring you up to date and give you my feelings. I approached, and I've spoken with David Surface prior to him leaving as the chairman of the selectmen a number of times in terms of coming up with some kind of a compromise that would satisfy the financial committee, financial advisory committee, and give the selectmen basically what they were looking for. I'm under the impression that as a group, that we would prefer to see the money go into something that the town has control over. While I recognize the fact that the selectmen would prefer to keep any revenue that we get as a result of that and put it into things such as the stabilization fund, I have not received anything in writing which was promised to me that that would be their goal as well. Mike has worked with us, and he's attempted to work with town council and also with the state to head this issue off before it becomes more inflamed. Because I for one don't want to see this get into a contest with the selectmen. But I think it's best for the town if the town has oversight on this money and also has the ability to vote on how it's used. That's my personal opinion. I opened it up to all the other Finance and Advisory Committee members for their input. Matt, welcome. So if anyone would like to start,
I'll start.
okay.
I have to say that I do agree with you. I believe that the funds absolutely should be, put into, as you say, control of the town, not necessarily the Board of Selectmen. I don't agree with the gift fund. I do not agree, with the treatment of the funds being a gift, necessarily. It is, in my eyes, a revenue that the town is receiving in exchange for having a business in town. And although I wanted to be a little bit more prepared to discuss it, I'm not. But I feel that the more research that I do into this particular issue, the more confident I am in my opinion as to the treatment of the funds should be treated as general funds. I'm using my background, my skills, my experience, and why I sit on the board. And I believe that to protect the interests of the town, I believe that that money should be, as you say, voted on by the people of the town. It should be vetted, gone through a budget process. It should be looked at by everyone in town and by the citizens of the town, and not necessarily put into a fund where granted the representatives of the town, no doubt in that, but where there's no control over those funds. It is a large amount of money, and again, I feel with my experience and my background, it is general funds money. And I don't think I can add to that without being more prepared.
I have a comment, and I don't mean to step on anybody else. There is one thing that's very important to remember. These funds are not guaranteed over the course of
Correct.
X amount of years.
Mhm.
In defense of the selectmen, they don't want to see it go into, and Gary and I have spoken about this, going into the general fund, being used for salaries or whatever, and then becoming a general budget item year over year over year, when that resource, that gift money that we're getting may dry up in 2 or 3 years, but we will still be paying as part of the budget for whatever expenses, salaries, or whatever that it was allocated towards.
Absolutely. But my answer to that is that's why we go through a budget process. That's why we discuss it through the town meeting. That's why we vote on those things, because we know that this money may not be there the following year. So it is our responsibility as the administrators of that money to make sure that we don't get ourselves into a position where we're in that position where, oh, all of a sudden the money's dried up and now we have all these salaries to pay. It is our responsibility as our fiduciary responsibility to make sure that we control those funds in that manner. So that way we don't get ourselves into a situation where we're spending more money than all of a sudden we're not receiving it. We can only spend what we have, what we know we are getting in. And yes, absolutely, it is new money. It's found money, so to speak, in a general sense. But that's part of the control that we need to maintain over it.
Right.
That's our responsibility.
And I envision that what we could do with it, it could go before the town, and we could vote, the town could vote to put it into the stabilization fund or something else.
Or whatever is
where
deemed
we're
appropriate.
able to preserve that money.
Absolutely. And not necessarily go into a budget process, absolutely, but it has to come into the general fund first, and then the decision should be made where that money does go through. And if it does end up in a stabilization fund, or even a special fund, it can be transferred into a special fund that can be used for other purposes. That's fine. That's what the town voted for. But the initial receipt of the funds and the decision how those funds are going to be handled in my opinion, and this is my opinion alone, and that's why I'm sitting here, needs to come into the general fund and for everyone to have a say as to where that money goes to. This is a large amount of money that's anticipated, not guaranteed, but that's anticipated. And there needs to be controls over it. And that's why we have controls.
I think those are good points. Everyone else?
Have we been here before? This is the same. Do we have anything new? Are there new developments? Did you hear from the state?
Well, I have been communicating with the state. As a matter of fact, after your discussion with Susan Hawley,
I didn't speak
I-
to Susan.
it wasn't Susan?
No, it was somebody else.
Well, the DOR contacted our accounting office and asked, could you please provide me with the details on how the town is accounting for the monies received from medical marijuana facility? Would you have a letter or documentation from legal counsel that you could provide us a copy of? At that point, and Susan Hooley is our field rep for the DOR. She comes in September and certifies our free cash and any other fiscal issues that the DOR might have. So she's gonna, and this is not just a town issue, this is a statewide issue. Because there are at least, that we know of, 20 other towns that have similar hosting agreements as we do. So I pointed that out to them in my response to them. I said, this, and all right now that they have is a blurb in a bulletin, a 3-line blurb saying these funds should be considered general fund revenues, but they don't explain. They quote chapter 44, section 53. Well, our legal counsel is quoting chapter 44, 53A. They have to turn the page in the Mass General Law. They don't do that, and they don't put anything in writing. They just say this is it, and they don't make a legal case for it, which I've asked them to do. So I sent them the letter from town legal counsel, and I've asked them. I said, please, give us some guidance in writing with a legal opinion, so we don't run afoul of any of the laws. As of today, I shot them an email. That request I made 2 weeks ago. I asked them last week if they were going to have an answer. They said, we don't have one yet. I asked them again today, would you have one? And I was told that his name is Tony Rassis. He's the head of the Bureau of Accounts at the Division of Local Services. That he would get me something in writing soon. But it wasn't going to be this week. And I don't know if I mentioned this. I actually called, well, I told you I spoke to DOR, attorney at DOR, and after discussing the issue, he stated their opinion that it's general fund money, and then I said, well, I have a legal opinion from town council that it's not. And he said, well, we always defer to town's legal counsel. Then when the new bulletin came out and said the same thing, I called the deputy director of DOR and had the same discussion with him, and his response was, we always defer to town's legal counsel.
And be that may, legal counsel, in my opinion, is not infallible. And I happen not to agree with what they're doing. And my right of opinion, in terms of what I've read, is just as valid as their opinion. And that's what I'm going to say about that. Anyone else?
Oh, I can get any attorney to write anything if you pay him enough money. I think, quite honestly, that, it should be in the general fund. That's where the money goes. And the selectmen, their gift account, or if they have some idea where this, as you found money, wants to be distributed, by all means, we're open to any suggestions. They want to put it in the stabilization fund, fine. They want to split some off and do CIP projects, fine. If there's something that the school has to have, fine. I'd be receptive to any and all thoughts on where this found money should be spent. But I just don't believe that the selectmen, without town approval, can have this kind of money to be writing checks and not taking before the voters.
Or further, that they had the right to do this to begin with, without any public notice.
No, yeah, I just don't.
I agree with you.
Oh, thank you.
Robin?
Can I ask two questions for just points of clarification based on what you mentioned?
Sure.
You said that there was about 20 similar hosting agreements throughout the state of
I think it's
Massachusetts.
22, isn't it?
22, okay.
I'm not sure.
Do all of them, when you said that they're facing the same challenges, is it they're facing the same challenges about having a medical marijuana facility or processing plant in their town? Or that they're facing the similar situation where the selectmen of the town or the leaderships of the town have chosen to put it into a gift account versus a general account?
The reason why I know there's 20 communities is because our legal counsel wrote their agreements for them.
20 other communities.
So there are,
And so they have the same setup as we do.
okay, so it's possible,
Three times,
in
right?
my
The same
opinion,
one.
it's,
Copy and paste.
it's possible by having the same legal counsel that same legal opinion that was taken for those other towns, to me, okay, what's the right way to say that? That doesn't make the legal opinion as strong for me. If we were talking about different councils,
Right.
with different people weighing in and interpreting, I agree with the points that Sheila made regarding that it's found money, it's not guaranteed, but that's why we have a budgeting process. To me, this is no different than if we have a restaurant in town where we have this line of income coming in, and then all of a sudden that restaurant closes. We have to budget and plan accordingly as well. So I do believe and agree with my fellow committee members that there does need to be some kind of oversight on this account. But my question is, can we even change that agreement as it is right now? Now, I think we have some understanding we're already in this agreement. Can we even change where that money goes at this point? It's already signed and.
Yeah, it could be changed.
We haven't got the money yet.
We do have some.
We haven't-
We
I know,
received
but there's an
$10,000.
agreement that says where it's gonna go.
It's gonna cost money.
Well, it's with the,
Just- We'll go through them, we'll give.
the selectmen have signed an agreement. I mean, it's not going to affect the marijuana facility owners. They really don't care where the money goes.
And it's not stipulated in the agreement where the funds go?
Oh, yeah. Oh, it is.
So is it stipulated in the agreement that it goes to a gift account?
Yes.
So then can we even change that if it's already in an agreement? I know it's irrelevant to the marijuana plant, but for us, are we allowed to change and
But-
divert the funds?
But my feeling has been and still is that I've been looking for a way to work with the selectmen, not work at cross purposes with them. Because if we get into an issue with them that could turn nasty, could turn legal, no one benefits but the lawyers.
Maybe I'm asking this incorrectly. What I'm trying to find out is if we have a signed agreement and it says that these funds are going into a gift account, is there a point to our conversation right now? If it's already designated that those funds are going going do you s-
There are
In my-
alternatives.
In my,
Okay,
in
that's
my,
what I was
yeah, in my
trying to determine.
opinion,
Well,
in my opinion, there's a contract cannot dictate what Mike, or the town does when that money comes flowing in to, pretty much is bound by certain rules, regulations, and guidelines. And so that agreement may say, well, yes, it comes into this, but it may not necessarily flow in that way. So in my mind, now correct me if I'm wrong, but you know, it can't say, well, we're just gonna have this go over here and that's not your proper treatment, accounting treatment of it. So you're not gonna put it over there, you're gonna put it where it's supposed to go. Am I correct?
Yeah, and I was being a little, you know, I don't wanna speak for the owners of the facility, but frankly, they could object that it goes to the general fund. Because the purpose of it is to go to offset impacts by the facility. Otherwise, and they don't have to enter into agreement. So they could conceivably say, well, if you're not gonna use it to directly counterbalance impacts of our facility, then no, we're not gonna pay you.
Okay, that brings an excellent question up then. Who controls, so we leave this in a gift account, who controls that the select people, I'm gonna say people even though they're all men for right now, make sure that when they take that money and they spend said money, that it goes to projects that offset the impact of that facility. Currently, the way that agreement as it's written, in my impression, is that there's no control, there's no check and balance to ensure that that money is spent in such a manner.
It says it's up to their sole discretion.
Exactly, so it doesn't say that they have to spend it to offset the impact of that
Well, the
facility.
law says it's their discretion, but the agreement says it's for impacts. And if the facility owners see that it's not going to something even remotely related to, you know, for traffic, for police, fire, you know, things like that.
Education of children to make sure they don't, you know.
Well,
take
we
drugs.
actually have a separate agreement inside that
Okay.
for that. They're gonna pay 10, in the next 5 years, they're gonna pay 10, 15, 20, 25, 25 to go to drug abuse and treatment programs. And we've already, the selectmen have established a committee, and they're working on, you know, spending the first $10,000 that we received back in November. If I could add one other thing.
Okay.
And I think I've mentioned this before, I don't know if everybody was here, but almost every department has a gift account.
We have
So-
gone through this, and
so-
we didn't agree with it at the time you
Well,
first said it. We don't agree with it
Well,
now.
you know, it's law, it's legal, and at least, you know, with 5 selectmen, you have 5 elected representatives determining where that money goes. Otherwise, you just have, you know, you have a department head that can spend that money. They don't even have to ask the selectmen
That is,
to spend it.
that's true. However, most of those, and I don't wanna say all because there's always an exception, but most of those receipts that come into those gift accounts were given without an exchange of something. So the town didn't do something for these people. Usually it's a bequest in a will, something like that. The town's not giving something
It's
to
a
them in
donation more
return.
than anything
It's
else.
a donation, exactly. This is a different animal in and of itself, in my opinion. That the town is giving something in return for this gift, this found money of gift.
Well, it is a donation because they don't have to give it. They're not
There's
required.
still
You
an
know what?
exchange of services.
Right, how many angels
beat it to
dance on the
death.
head of a pin? You know, this kind of discussion isn't gonna move us to where
Correct.
we need to go. Anybody else?
Why don't we discuss where we need to go?
All right, well, Gary Fowler's here tonight,
Okay.
and I believe you have something to say?
I don't know whether to speak now or wait until Wayne's asking where you wanna go. I mean, I would like to ask, but I'm only speaking as one selectman and I may be the only one. But, you know, as I had said, I agree with Wayne. I personally have always felt that these funds should be spent by the townspeople, perhaps under the discretion of the selectmen. It's just like many other things. The selectmen write the warrant article. If money's coming out of the stabilization fund, it's not coming out if the selectmen don't write the warrant article. Then the town votes on it. And if I'm correct, we are the only ones that have the power to write the warrant article other than a citizen's petition.
Yeah, this is
Okay,
yeah,
so
that's an avenue.
perhaps if we look at the gift fund as, you know, I'm writing things out, perhaps if you just look at that as a deposit mechanism at this point. You know, right now I'd like to think of it as, it's just a mechanism of something for the money to get deposited into. And maybe what you need to think of is create a bylaw that those funds go into an account. If it's a gift account, okay, and that account would be in the general budget. And then it's to be withdrawn for spending by 2/3 vote of town meeting. I mean, I personally would agree with that, but I'm probably the only one. But I don't know what else, other than something of that sort, is gonna get you folks to the table. So maybe that's what, and where Wayne was saying, you just started to say, where are we going? And maybe that's what you gotta do, is put on your thinking caps, and also come to the selectmen is, you know, instead of fighting, come to us with ideas
We
of how
have.
you think it ought to be.
We have done that. I've made
Well-
numerous
On
attempts.
open meetings, you know, you've
We
done it.
we did a one open meeting.
Yes, we had one.
And we were promised that we would have further discussions, and I wrote a letter to them. I've met personally with the former chair, asking for a meeting to develop some common ground based on our concerns. And not only as a member of this board, but as a citizen, I feel as though we have been ignored.
As a member of the select board, I feel that this has been ignored. We have not worked on any policy of it. Now, perhaps it's because the funds aren't here, but they're gonna be here before we know it. And even if we were to work on policy, the trouble with a policy is that policy is nothing but that. It's words on a piece of paper. You can change the policy anytime you want. So, that's why I think perhaps you need to consider going down the road of a bylaw, whether you draw it, attorney draws it, but, I don't know how else we're gonna get to a consensus. I'm trying to
we
say,
have a
what
new-
will bring us to a consensus?
We have a new chairman of the selectmen.
Yes.
My feeling is this, that we make one more attempt to move this forward without any type of friction, that we try to reach an accommodation that satisfies them and satisfies us. I think I understand what they're trying to do and what they're afraid of. But knowing that, we can work with them if they give us the proper oversight and we see something in writing that says, this is how this is going to be handled. Because right now we have nothing. So, with the the committee's approval, if we want to do that, we can attempt one more time because we have a new chairman. Or we can think about other options, other alternatives, including going to town meeting. But I don't think that's the last thing we want to do is split the town and create issues.
If I,
Be an
if I may-
interesting topic at town meeting, that's for sure.
If I may, ask Mike, what are our chances of getting, I know it's the Department of Revenue, but what are our chances of putting more pressure on them? How would we be able to do that to actually make a decision? Because this does not only affect us, it affects, 20, 22 other towns, or getting council to actually put it in writing, which apparently they don't wanna do, which also makes me very nervous, that they don't want to actually put a legal opinion in writing. It seems that a lot of the friction in a lot of our own decisions would be resolved, not only for us, but other towns as well, if either the Department of Revenue or our attorneys stepped up and said, this is our opinion, this is how, in writing. So, to be perfectly honest, so the town is protected, so all of us are protected, so the town themselves are protected in how we're actually handling this money, to prevent any further sort of issues that would balloon into something even bigger than we feel it is right now.
Well, that's
I
my,
think that's a huge factor that weighs into this.
that is my concern.
Yeah.
And as of when did I get this email? It was last Friday. Please know that I have not responded in this matter due to the fact that Tony Rassus, Deputy Director, is in the process of putting something in writing to you. I asked if I could have it today, and they said, no, there will not be a response this week.
So
Okay.
my feeling is we hold this in abeyance until we get something.
I have a thought, just
Okay.
a thought. The Department of Revenue is going to come up with something.
Right.
Would like to see something. But whatever they come up with, you'll be taking that to the Board of Selectmen, correct?
Absolutely, yeah.
All right. When you take that to the Board of Selectmen, that's the meeting we need to go to,
Yes.
okay? And so. it
The
might-
key is communication here.
Right. We need to be, and not that we're gonna go to the meeting, and he's gonna have this thing.
We're not gonna be loaded for bear. We're
No.
looking for an
We're-
alternative
Let's come up with a
solution.
plan of what we're gonna do to make the
No, not,
selectmen
as soon as
happy.
I get the response, I'll share it with the committee as well.
Do we have any other opinions?
Frankly, my only concern is that this gentleman from the Department of Revenue comes back and says, well, we defer to town council. And the town council in this matter has been the same council for 22
Right.
towns. So then, that's when I think it becomes even more important that our council is willing to go in writing that this is why we said this. I mean, if they were to say that, I think I would feel much better about this entire situation, in all honesty.
I mean, absolutely, someone has to put something in writing. They disagree. We have our own opinions, but at the end of the day, what town council says and what the Department of Revenue says, really holds a lot more weight than any
Maybe we should,
personal opinions that we may have.
I don't know if we can ask Mike, have selectmen contact town council, put this in an opinion in writing. We want it in writing.
Well, it
Well,
has
he-
been
he
in writing.
has, yeah.
We've seen it.
Legal
it is
opinion.
Yeah,
Oh, I
we've
haven't
seen
seen
it.
that.
It's
All right.
long, last July.
Okay, I don't remember seeing that.
I don't
he put this
understand.
in-
I saw the email where he said,
I thought I
the
Shared
email where
It
he
may have
talked
been
about
before I,
opinion.
before
Yeah.
I came.
I didn't see, I never saw a legal opinion.
Well,
it's an email, but he states this is my legal opinion.
all right.
And it's not-
I don't want to
I'm not-
prolong this agony tonight.
Okay.
What I would like to do is just one more go round on your opinion of the next steps. Each one of us, all of us, not just a couple. We're gonna start with Robin. What do you think we should do?
I agree with the recommendation that Wayne said, that we get whatever it may be, the meeting that it goes to with the selectmen, we go, we discuss it, and we come up with an amenable solution for all involved. I think we're just looking for oversight. I don't think we're looking to.
We're not looking to overthrow the
No,
selectmen.
we just wanna make sure there's oversight, because it's not always gonna be, we have a very, in my opinion, we have a very trustworthy group of selectmen. It may not always be the case, and we may have that revenue coming in, so as long as that's my.
I agree with that.
I agree with that.
I don't know what we're all worried about. I think if the money's supposed to be used to offset impact of the facility, I think it would be put to good use if that's what's in the contract.
I think the issue is we don't necessarily believe that's gonna be the case where the money's used. And if we let it go, then we won't have any oversight where the money goes. And what are we gonna do? Say this is supposed to be how it's spent, but it's not? I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think there's any type of plan to spend that money how you just said.
Well, I know there's not a plan. My opinion is that we've been spinning our wheels for far too long.
That's the reason we're having, right now, I'm asking your opinion, what we do next.
Well, I'm a broken record. We work with the selectmen to find out what they'd like to do with the money.
But we've gotta go beyond that, because obviously our requests to the selectmen to work with us have gone unheeded.
But you just said we have a new
We do,
head,
we
and
do.
let's give him a chance.
Give him a chance.
Okay? I don't mean to be
Nothing
combative
further,
with
nothing
you.
further.
Matt?
Actually, I agree with Ashley though, but I don't see really what the argument is over if the Board of Selectmen chooses to use the money for something that's not to offset that. The Happy Farms can elect to take the money away, and so I don't think, my hope would be that the Board of Selectmen would not make a decision that would cost the town that. I think the concern is that the money's there and people believe that we're gonna do other projects with it, put it into the general fund, hire a teacher or something like that. You can't do that with those things, and so I don't think.
You see, I'm not convinced that's the case at all. That is my problem.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why I respectfully disagree with your thought on that. I don't think there's any guarantee that that's gonna be how the money's spent.
It's 100%. There's no guarantee on anything. There's no guarantee that they're going to continue to give us the money either.
And I stated that from the outset.
Yeah. So I think it's there to do what it's intended to do, is to offset what what their impact on the town is, and if it's eventually not used for that, we run the risk of it going away. So I would hope that the elected officials would use it in their best interest.
And that
for the
could
town.
just be smoke and mirrors to get us not to do something. The chances of Healthy Farm doing that is probably slim and none.
It could be. I don't know.
And actually the issue isn't so much that. The issue is that they have sole discretion over this, which means they can do anything they want with it. Notwithstanding what the agreement is.
No, I still would have faith that the selectmen wouldn't, but to Gary's point, perhaps just as a depository account for now, and then to vote on it as a bylaw wouldn't be a bad opinion. Mike, Sheila had mentioned before about having a special fund off the general fund. Is that something that's even allowed, or?
No.
It was,
Well, the donation account is a special fund off that. That is what it is by definition.
And so that money can only come out by town approval, or?
No. The general fund money has to be appropriated.
I guess my question is, could we create an account from which the general fund, we have a budgeted amount where we deposit that money into an account?
No, because if we could, we would be doing that already for things like CIP, with $10,000 a year away for a fire truck.
Yeah.
You can't do
Just
that.
can't do that.
But you do bring up a point. And for clarity, say that fund gets $100,000, and based on what I've seen, it is up to the sole discretion of the selectmen, and they decide to spend it on something. Who says yes or no?
Just the selectmen.
That's my point.
when I spoke with Tony at Department of Revenue, he did mention that we could move the funds once they come into the general fund, then we can move it to, as you said, the CIP or another fund that we so choose from that point. So it can be done just a little differently than going into the gift account.
All
Well,
right.
the only,
Be-
the other
but it
fund,
would be
is.
similar to
It
like a
would be
CIP.
tax, there is a capital fund that takes, and the selectmen haven't outweighed, haven't decided not to do it. There's a capital stabilization fund and there's a tax stabilization fund. That money, by 2/3 vote at town meeting, can be put in, and it takes 2/3 vote of town meeting to take it out. So when I said no, I wasn't referring to those two types of funds.
Is there any purpose for those accounts aside from?
One is if you put it in the capital stabilization fund, it has to be spent on capital items. The tax stabilization is just transfer money into the general fund. but it still has to be appropriated. It
Gary?
has to be appropriated out of both those funds.
And this is, I just, do you mind, I'm just looking for a little clarity on that, on how it gets into the general fund. If it were to go in an account, it can only be put in some of these accounts by town meeting vote?
Yes,
So, all right, so that's sort of one of the problems that
Remedies?
we have to overcome here. Is that correct? Even if we can't create an account for it, other than a gift account. What about a revolving account?
no, revolving accounts has to have a regular
You guys saw that, that's the.
stream of revenue.
Oh, it is. All right.
Wouldn't that be?
I don't think a once-a-year donation would count as a regular stream of revenue.
I think that, I want to end this because again, this could go on forever. I think the main thing is that we wait for you to see what comes back, and we try to work with the selectmen to deal with our concerns. And I think that the point is that we all trust the selectmen that we have, and we respect them. But in this instance, we don't agree with them. And I think that this problem can be solved very easily if we have a discussion that just preserves the right of somebody, some committee, some way to provide oversight on those funds.
I agree.
All right, anything else?
Well, I would right now circle July 10th. The selectmen are meeting Monday night. I don't think we're gonna, well, if we do get a letter, it would be a last minute item. So they're not meeting again until July 10th. And that's their only meeting in July, and they're having one meeting in August.
Okay. Should we have anything else?
I would like to just say something. I attended the Division of Local Services, what was it called? The New Officials Finance Forum in May. And I actually thank you, Mike, the town, for allowing me to go, paying for me to go. I thought it was absolutely beneficial. There was a lot of information that, even as an accountant, I really just was unaware of, treatments of certain things, how certain things work in local municipalities and governments, and I really feel that if it is available, anyone who can go, the town really should look to sending new people to these finance forums, because I really truly felt it was very, very beneficial for me, and I can imagine to someone who is going into this completely blind, I really truly felt it was very, very worthwhile. And so I just wanted to just throw that out there and thank the town for sending me, and really just say that people really should, if they have the opportunity, go to one of those finance forums. I really
Sheila, is
felt
it, no, you're a teacher by trade as well.
I'm an auditor by trade,
Like-
many years as an auditor, and I also teach, yes, at one of the local colleges.
I was just wondering, is there any way you could do the salient points you think that we should know?
I
and
could try it.
give us some benefit of what you've learned?
I can try, yeah, absolutely. I found that really the people at the Department of Revenue, the Division of Local Services, they are a wealth of information. They truly are, and I can try, but short of having them come in and sit down and do their own
Right, but,
thing.
I mean, there must
they
be some
really,
things
yeah.
that you can pass along.
Yeah, absolutely. I can try. I mean, I have their PowerPoints here and things.
Okay.
I could make copies of and notes to that. Absolutely, I can do that. But I did. I felt it was very, very beneficial.
All right, I think that we've gone on a little long, and I apologize for that. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're over.